We talk a lot about Donald Trump as he relates to Hollywood as an industry, because certainly just about every actor in existence has some opinion of Donald Trump that they enjoy sharing with everybody, whether it's to the benefit or detriment of their career is up for everyone else to decide. But it is undeniable to call Donald Trump the person of the year this year, given everything that happened.
Yeah.
Given, becoming only the second president in history to have non-sequential terms, being arrested and then having to come back from being arrested and charged and all of this stuff. He is not just a political icon, he is a pop culture icon, given how prevalent he was to the entertainment industry before all of his political ambitions came to fruition. And this year, he was named for the second time as the Time Magazine Person of the Year. And the reason I wanted to cover it is because I did want to get everyone's opinions on this, and I did want to share my thoughts on it, because I want to show you the covers of these magazines between 2016 and 2024 and see if you guys believe, as I do, that this indicates, in a way, the changing of the guard and turning of the tide as it relates to how he's covered, at least sometimes, by the media. So if you remember this in 2016, this was the cover. Does everybody remember this one here?
First time seeing it. Okay.
Do you remember this one, Phil?
Where
the picture okay, so this is him. His face is in shadow. He actually looks like he's a bit duplicitous as he's about to do something to you, and it says Donald Trump, President of the Divided States of America.
Which is disgusting.
Of course,
it's disgusting.
and we understand. And so that was 2016. Now you go through 8 years, one presidential term, endless
Yapping.
political things happening in the industry, whether it's the impeachments, everything like that, Russiagate, all of that stuff. And then you get to 2024 after he goes through all of that. And this is the cover that you get. And I said the same thing when he was on the cover of another magazine the other day, where they're not going out of their way to make him look evil like they used to in magazine covers and stuff like this. And I think part of this is they've seen the changing of the guard as far as the population after winning the popular vote, despite the fact that California might still be counting votes to this day.
Forever.
I have no idea.
Forever. They're going to count them until Democrats win.
But the point is that this type of art can actually give you a little bit more truth than they might even be willing to admit themselves. So the president of, the president of Time Magazine says that...
Just because I'm free has a $20 super chat. He says, missed opportunity. Trump should have just told them to use the iconic picture from Butler. It's not a bad idea.
Weren't they going to do 2 covers for that, and then they pulled out?
Maybe.
They did. They had it, and then they stopped.
Because they didn't want... And the argument that they made is they didn't want to affect the election. That iconic image, they were like, if we put this on the cover, it might affect the election.
Yeah, he might actually win, guys.
I know.
Time Magazine's owner says Trump's presidency marks a time of great promise for America.
Wow.
We look forward to working together. Again, I want you to contrast that with what you were seeing 8 years ago and the shift in the cultural zeitgeist. And you don't just have that going on. We have the fact that the likes of Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Sam Altman.
Sam, I've seen that.
Yeah, you see Sam Altman?
Yeah.
So, hold please. This super chat, or this song is more relevant now.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So we have the likes of Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Sam Altman of OpenAI all donating $1 million to his inauguration and stuff like that. And I just think back to what it was like 8 years ago and how different everything was at the corporate level, how any type of positive attitude towards this man was to be held with contempt from everyone. Now, most of that contempt, though it is there, I did see some articles today from the New York Post kind of using
But it's only
weasel
from
words.
the far left.
Yeah.
You have to be...
It's on Blue Sky.
Well, yeah, and which is a very isolated...
It's Twitter in 2017. It's like a time capsule.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Twitter in 2017.
Really way to describe it.
And I think that it's a big deal because, like I said, when I was following the election coverage on election night, certainly you got the updates from everybody who works in this space. Every influencer's posting about it. Yeah. But some of the most frequent updaters were the likes of Popbase and Popcrave, which are sites that normally cater to regular pop culture, whether it's stan culture, music, movies, television. But for some reason, something about Donald Trump's persona has it's just it's grown on other people. Now they don't like him. They seem to take a more neutral approach to him with the posts, and then would just let the people who hate him show up in the comments. But even being, choosing to cover him at all proves that they're choosing the influence he can give their companies over ideology. Meaning that if they wanted to hamper him, they would just not cover him at all. But they don't do that because there's money to be made, and the general public sentiment isn't the same as it was back then. Do you guys think that we're going to see more of that growth from the general public, or more of that growth from these companies?
Going to be from the companies. I think the general public
You think more
is
of
already there.
the more of the companies will?
Like the popular vote already kind of signaled it was already there. It's just the companies need to shift.
I think you're right, but I think it even goes beyond the popular vote. There have been a lot of people have been over the woke stuff, and that's been pretty apparent to a lot of companies. And I think that is part of the way that people feel about Donald Trump. They're overhearing that Donald Trump is Hitler. They know that he's not. They know that he's going to be a generally fairly normal president. They hope that he does really good things. Maybe he'll do some things that actually shrink the size of the government, which most Americans are on board with. At least in a concept, as a concept, they're on board with that. So I think that mostly the corporations and the people that run big corporations, it's in response to the people, and also people like Elon Musk that have come, and David Sachs, the entire All In podcast, the four guys that do that, Jason Chamath, and I forget the Freeberg. Those guys are very influential, and they were, I think, except for Jason, they were all very openly pro Donald Trump. Chamath, I think it said that he was made aware of the very fine people lie. He actually went and watched, and he couldn't believe that, oh man, they actually lied to us, that the whole of the media lied to us. And then Democrats like Barack Obama, who had been conceptually above the fray, right? The Democrats kind of thought of Barack Obama as a special politician that was above politics. He was different. And when he actually came out and said made the very fine people hoax, he was saying that Donald Trump said that things. A lot of people were like, wait a minute. Like I said, Chamath had said this himself. He's like, I couldn't believe that Barack Obama had said this because I thought of him as a different kind of politician. And clearly he isn't, or he demonstrated that he isn't. So I think it was mostly, or it was not just mostly, it was many fronts, but the general consensus was people are over it, and the people that had been going along with the Donald Trump as the bad guy, they kind of responded to the fact that most people were not going to respond well to that kind of idea.
I say just operate under the premise that all politicians are bad guy, and whatever the least bad policy that you can benefit from as a citizen is your best bet.
I get what you're saying, and I agree. Like, all politicians are bad in that they're in the politics game, and the politics game is bad. But when you just say that all politicians are bad, you can just say, well, they're all Hitler.
It's my own utopian view of the world that I understand is not necessarily fair. I do also want to point out that they talk about Hitler was on the cover in 1939. Which is my point of drawing the distinction between the two covers, was to show that there's more layers to this. Because guess what? Taylor Swift was on the cover last year. Taylor Swift is literally Hitler. Yeah. So basically, the point was not to draw on the cover as a good thing or a bad thing, but to draw on the difference between the covers between 2016 and 2024, to ask the question of everyone, is this indicative of a shift in corporate support in the media in hopes of gaining favor from the president? Or is it a shift of the media reflecting a changing in, say, the Overton window in this country to better reflect the way people see things? I err on the side of them looking to garner some type of support selfishly, because I don't believe they give a crap about what the American people want or need. As we know, the media in this country is unbelievably broken in a lot of respects. Absolutely. And my point of the likes of a Jeff Bezos or a Mark Zuckerberg or even a Sam Altman supporting him and giving him money is not that I suddenly think that Jeff Bezos is based. No, I don't believe that for a second. I believe that corporate heads are going to move whichever way the wind blows. And right now, the wind happens to be blowing in a direction that favors ideas that you support. And the best thing that you can do is to dispassionately look at that and try to make gains in your life through these things any way you can, because eventually the pendulum will swing back the other way at some point. And for instance, I don't actually think that they have given the fact that so much of this country is like default neoliberal in a lot of ways. And
I take issue with the term neoliberal, but go ahead.
Default liberal, then. How about that? Anti-war, but generally liberal.
Yeah, okay,
socially
right.
liberal.
Better.
That in 2028, I don't know if J.D. Vance has the star power or the cult of personality that will be beneficial in getting people to vote for him. But that's not the point of this discussion. My point was more that it's him, right? It's this dude is just very, very influential. And it sucks that it ever came to this, given that he was a cultural icon long before politics. I watched Home Alone 2 as I always do. Well, I watched 1 and 2 very recently and had to think about the time where a couple years ago they edited out his scene from Home Alone 2 on Canadian television because the sight of Donald Trump was just too much. Yes, they absolutely did that.
So stupid.
And I just think it's funny that all of this hullabaloo over a dude whose policies are pretty in line with what Democrats would have loved in the 90s. So I just wanted to draw distinctions between the two covers. I was wondering if you guys think, was there anybody else this year who could have possibly, because we're all kind of mired in politics all the time, given where we work. So your mind tends to go there first because you're a product of your environment. Is there anybody else you can think of that would have been a good candidate for Person of the Year this year?
Maybe Altman.
With
Maybe.
the rise of... Well, no, not after that thing the other day about ChatGPT lying to its...
Yeah, I always take...
Look, I've seen this movie before, and it never ends well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that they all know that, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're selling it to you for that.
Yeah.
But, like, AI is, like, we're living through something that our grandkids are going to be asking us about, what life was like before it. Just like, you know, some of us asked, like, hey, what was your childhood like before you had a cell phone? Or, like, you know...
Actually, I find that they don't ask that question. They just can't imagine.
Yeah, they don't care. No, it's really they just don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because it's an election year, there's only like I don't really see anyone else.
Musk.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say.
mean, Musk could be. There was also an argument that they were making for Kate. I forget her name. The Duchess of
Middleton.
Yeah, Kate Middleton, because of her fight with cancer,
Yeah.
which in a normal
That
non-election year, I think that would have been a stronger,
I think you're right.
stronger thing.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not political. It's it's kind of a message of hope and stuff like that. So it is at least it's something that most people can say, okay, I don't have much of a political take on this, because the royals are generally non-political. You know, people that are really conservative will criticize them for being quote unquote woke, but really what they're doing is they're just swimming in the with the current that society that they exist in is kind of has going right now. So.
I think you're right. I think if this had been any other year other than the election year, they might have gone with that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, when I heard that, I was like, oh, if it wasn't for the fact that that clearly Donald Trump should have won because of the historic nature of not only his campaign but him being reelected after having lost, and also the multiple attempts and stuff. But also, I do think that Elon Musk, never mind the political stuff, but catching the rocket booster on
Starlink.
the first try.
So awesome.
Starlink getting people addicted to porn on other sides of the world.
Starlink serving people
never
internet
mind.
in
I think that was just
hurricane
Yeah,
area.
that kind of stuff. And also, I know that I might have mentioned
Zelensky
this
gets
the other day on Twitter, or mentioned it here, but the Tesla revolutionized the way that they get GPUs to talk to each other. It was thought that you could only get 40,000 GPUs to talk to them, and they
redid
the whole way that it works, and now they can get 100,000 GPUs talking together. And when I say talking together, I don't mean just like communicating. I mean literally thinking the same thing at the same time. That was the actual revolutionary thing, is not just getting them to communicate, but getting all 100,000 to think the same thing at the same time means that they can work on the same problem. So Musk would there's a good argument to have Musk. I think there'll probably be a good argument for him the next couple of years. You know?
Yeah, I'm with the chat. Hawk Tua should have been on the cover of Time magazine.
Spit on that thing.
I'm so not.
Whatever happened? Like did
Hawk Tua. Come on.
Did she split town after the Hawk Tua coin? Where is she?
No,
She's still talking to him.
Does anybody here have Logan Paul's number? Call him. I want to know where. Or Jake Paul. Does anybody have his number? Call him up. I want to know where she is.
Why would he know?
Well, she works for his.
Okay.
Like her podcast is through his brand.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. I'd be interested to know what everybody in the chat thinks, or if you're watching this video after the fact, do you think that the public is changing their tune on these things, or do you think the media is just trying to curry favor? It's an interesting question.
I love the 2016 one. He's looking back, and you're looking down at him, and it's dark behind him.
Well, it's the shadows, right? That's the point.
But the 2014, he's like got the aura, and he's looking down at you now. So the big old difference.
Look, I'm not an art critic, but I think anybody puts those covers side by side understands that there's a vast difference in how it's being portrayed.
Like the dude literally has a halo behind him.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.